All right, today we're going to dive into this really simple but honestly super profound story. It's called The Story of the Glass of Water. And it's one of those short tales that, well, it just packs a powerful punch about how our own minds work.
But before we get into it, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your mind is just a storm? You know, like a whirlwind of thoughts and worries and old memories just swirling around, and you can't get it to quiet down? I think it's a feeling we all know, right?
Well, that exact feeling, that's right where our story starts. We meet this young guy, Marco. He's 24 years old. And for him, that storm in his head wasn't just something that happened once in a while. Nope, it was his constant, everyday reality.
And the story makes it clear this wasn't just him being a deep thinker. It was this relentless, vicious cycle. The thoughts would make him feel uneasy, and that uneasiness would just fuel more thoughts. You can imagine, it left him totally and completely exhausted.
So you can picture it, right? Marco was basically trapped. He was living between two worlds, and neither of them was the present moment. His mind was either stuck on rewind, replaying the past and making him sad, or it was on fast forward, worrying about the future and making him anxious. He was never actually here.
And as you can guess, he was feeling pretty hopeless, totally worn out. But then he hears this rumor, just a whisper of a possible solution. And that's what kicks off the next chapter of his story. His quest to find an answer.
Now, the person he's going to see isn't some mystical hermit on a mountaintop. Actually, he's a former psychologist. So this is someone who really understood the human mind. But he basically traded in the busy city for a quiet life in nature, helping people find the exact kind of peace that Marco was so desperate for.
And look, this wasn't just a casual afternoon trip. The story calls it a long and tiring journey. His commitment really shows you just how badly he wanted to escape that storm in his head. So he kind of packs up his hope and starts the long walk.
So he finally gets there, and he explains his whole situation to the wise man. But the wise man, he doesn't give him some big lecture or a bunch of advice. Instead, he gives him this simple but really profound challenge. It's called the glass of water test.
The instructions are so clear. The wise man just hands Marco a glass of water, and it is filled right to the absolute brim. The task sounds easy, right? But the amount of focus needed is just immense. I mean, one wrong step, one tiny moment of distraction, and it's all over. He fails.
So as he starts walking, you have to imagine the scene. The village is buzzing with distractions. You've got people running around, shopkeepers yelling out to customers, kids playing, dogs barking, the whole shebang. But for Marco, none of it even existed. His entire world, his whole consciousness, just shrank down to that tiny surface of the water in the glass.
And he makes it back. He gets back to the wise man, totally successful. You can just feel his pride, right? He's thinking, I did it. I passed the test. He's proven how focused he can be. And he's just standing there, waiting for his big reward, the answer he came all this way for.
But the wise man's reaction is not at all what Marco was expecting. He doesn't pat him on the back. Instead, he asks this really important question. He doesn't ask about the water. He asks about everything Marco missed.
And Marco, he's a little surprised, but he gives this honest answer that becomes the key to the whole thing. He says, no, I was only focusing on the glass. He admits he saw nothing, heard nothing. He was so completely absorbed in what he was doing that the entire world just faded away. See, Marco's answer wasn't a sign that he failed. No way. It was the entire point of the exercise. And this brings us to the final, really beautiful revelation of the story, the real secret to a quiet mind.
And there it is. The truth comes out. The test was never really about carrying water. It was a perfect demonstration, a live experiment. Because by focusing so intensely on that one single task, Marco's mind literally had no room left for its usual storm. There was no space for old regrets, no space for future fears. For those few minutes, he was completely at peace.
And that was the peace he had been searching for all along. It wasn't in some distant village, and it wasn't even in the wise man's words. It was right there, in the simple act of being completely, 100% present. When his mind was totally full with the now, that storm, it just couldn't form.
And really, that's the ultimate takeaway here. Peace isn't some destination you have to travel to. It's not something you go out and find. It's a state that you can access, and it is already inside you. It's just waiting for your focus to bring it out. Marco just needed someone to show him the way back to himself.
So as we wrap this up, the story leaves us with a question to think about. And it's not for Marco this time. It's for you. In this very moment, right now, as you're listening to me, where is your focus?